Is that grievances be noticed. I give the call to the member for Hasluck.
Thank you. The Albanese Labor Government has come to power at a time of significant challenges, rising inflation and the associated interest rate increases, plus long-term structural deficits in the budget. And demands on the budget continue, not least of those demands being the repayments of the $1 trillion of Liberal debt we inherited. These are significant challenges. They are the type of challenges likely to chip your political paint on your way through. But I tell you what, Deputy Speaker, as an Australian, I am very glad that it is us, the Albanese Labor Government, who are tasked with navigating these challenges. A team of creative and collaborative ministers and MPs are engaged with the community, engaged with industry, and that are committed to innovative solutions for the challenges we face now and those coming from just over the horizon. The alternative, a repeat of the lost decade we have just been through, frankly, fills me with some dread. The achievements of this government so far across all portfolios is substantial and impressive, and we're just getting started. We've seen innovation in childcare, in housing, in aged care and on wages, helping families and people young and old. We have seen a government willing to make the hard decisions to make Australia a serious player again on the world stage, in foreign affairs and in trade, with climate change commitments and necessary condition precedent. The program I'd like to speak to here is particularly to focus on the National Reconstruction Fund. Because when a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic completely disrupts the status quo of civilisation, it is imperative that political leaders learn the tough lessons that were thrust upon us, and in particular, the supply chain disruptions combined with a dearth of domestic manufacturing capability. It is fitting, Deputy Speaker, that the Minister with carriage of this is also the Minister for Chifley, for Prime Minister Chifley too was a nation builder. As the Minister outlined in his second reading speech, the National Reconstruction Fund will be one of the largest investments in Australia's history. As the Prime Minister said earlier today too, investment is the key word. While individual investments through the fund will be at arm's length from government, which is not a terribly difficult concept to grasp, the legislation will nonetheless direct funding towards value-adding in 7 priority areas. Value add in the agriculture, forestries and fisheries sectors. Value add in resources. Enabling capabilities across engineering, data, science and software development. Transport. Medical science. Renewables and low emissions technologies, and defence capability being the 7th. The fund dovetails well with the government's net zero ambitions and with our aim to become a renewable energy superpower. The National Reconstruction Fund has been met with general acclaim. The Smart Energy Council, for example, commented that it supports the Australian government's establishment of the $15 billion National Reconstruction Fund to support, diversify and transform Australia's industry and economy to help create secure, well-paid jobs, secure future prosperity and drive sustainable economic growth. The Australian Industry Group has said, "We welcome the government's commitment to the transformation and the diversification of Australian industry through the NRF. The government's commitment of $15 billion to the NRF is a sizable down payment. Recognising the scale of the challenge and the opportunity, it elevates industrial transformation to the top of the economic policy agenda." The Business Council of Australia stated, "We support the establishment of the National Reconstruction Fund. The establishment of the $15 billion fund will be an important step towards diversifying and transforming Australia's industry and economy." Many businesses within Hasluck and wider across Western Australia and, of course, Australia are interested in applying to access funds to innovate in their areas of expertise. I have had very positive feedback from many of the attendees at my Green Energy Roundtable last year. What? Oh, good gracious. Really? The attendees at the Green Energy Roundtable that I hosted last year, the industry players that are putting significant funds on the table, need the confidence that the government has clarity and the targets and the goals, which have to actually be backed in to de-risk some of these ventures, which it might be a little hard for you to comprehend our new ventures. We can either be on the back step or we can be on the front step and actually get on the global stage and be the world economic global leader that we can be. Thank God we don't have a decade of your lot holding us back, because there's enough and it's over. It's $15 billion. It's a down payment. And suddenly those on the opposite side are concerned about government supporting industry, but you didn't have any concern with providing support for oil and gas and for coal all these years. No problems supporting those sectors. A little bit anxious about providing support to renewable and energies that will create the jobs of the future. It's absolutely extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. And you're having a problem with the Inflation Reduction Act as well? Extraordinary that you'd want us to leave us behind. Stay back in your dinosaur age, and God forbid we should ever have you guys elected in this parliament ever again. Disgraceful. But I'm happy to say you are absolutely in the minority. As evidenced by the members of this parliament, you are absolutely in the minority. Western Australia sent you a very clear message. I'd suggest you take heed of it if you want to be relevant to the Australian population ever again. Back to my constituents who actually matter, Midland-Brick. Had a fabulous visit with them, with the parent company BGC. They've been a staple in the WA manufacturing sector for over 75 years. They were absolutely thrilled that the government has finally got clear targets and clear guidance as to where the investment dollars need to flow. So an absolute commitment from them, not for a target to one of the highest carbon emission industries. They are prepared to set a target.
You are cautioned.
BGC is an example of a high-emitting sector with concrete, with bricks. They are not setting a target to reduce to net zero by 2050. Guess when they want to set it? By 2040. 2040. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. This is a company that operates in a high-emissions technology area. They are preparing to set to 2040. They have embraced the necessity of innovation. They are planning to reach the climate goal through a variety of changes across their business. They are looking, brace yourself for it, to potentially even set up in Collie with a green energy to manage their kilns. Can you imagine that? Will you support that? Will you actually get in behind that and the jobs that it will create? Or are you going to be a naysayer to that prospect as well? Reject the future for jobs. Reject the opportunity to actually reduce carbon emissions. Unbelievable that you would turn down industry that are demonstrating putting their money on the table to move this forward. It's an example of both of what can be achieved, and is a great example.
Stop interjecting, please.
Great example of a company willing to look ahead and to plot a productive and a profitable path into the future. It reminds us just how important it is to get ahead in the curve in this area, whether you're a company or in government, which thankfully we don't have to worry about that, because for 10 years you kept with climate change denial, avoiding the necessary investments to address it. My word, how things have changed. Compare that with the actions of this government in a period of higher inflation to start to invest in the future of this economy in a way that actually assists people sitting around their kitchen table trying to make ends meet. In the budget in October, Treasurer Chalmers stated that the significantly higher receipts from higher than expected resource prices will be applied to paying down that debt, that Liberal debt. It's a prudent move. It's a great idea. From time to time, it is necessary for a government to take on debt, and this is done hopefully for a good reason. And if we cast our minds back to 2008 and the global financial crisis, the Labor government then knew that a significant government stimulus was a useful way to ensuring Australian businesses and the economy generally stayed well. Our actions at the time did draw applause from across the world, and it was a useful and targeted fiscal action taken in a timely manner and in a way that had lasting effects. The present government, we inherited that $1 trillion of Liberal debt, an amount triple that which followed the GFC. Some of that was necessary thanks to the pandemic, but in the main, we have to ask ourselves, just exactly how that money was dispersed and the ongoing consequences we're all now having to wear and bear as a consequence of the cost of living changes. So when we were faced with the National Reconstruction Fund being proposed in the government, we have to look exactly who voted yes, who voted no. An investment in the future of this country at a time when we face the imperative of transforming our economy in the ground up in the face of climate change. Where were those opposite? They were nowhere to be seen. Where was the Albanese Labor government? We were here, we were present, we said yes, and Australia, thankfully, will benefit from our leadership.
Very well said. Excellent.
Thank you. There being